with the mind. You will become an expert on your mind, but you have to put the work in, and the mind is the hardest part to work on. Physically, it's fine because you can ignore a lot of different things when you're working physically, but mentally you have to deal with a lot of things about who you actually are and what you can contribute and what you can't, what you're capable of and what you're not. Also, it's unfortunately not being seen as a very masculine thing to do. So I was lucky. I came across it and I approached it in a very soul-centered way, but also a quite aggressive way, to make it, but then sometimes when I talk to some players about it, especially if they were male, they were just like, what's that about? Or if they just had a masculine, say, personality, they didn't have to be male, but had a more masculine personality, they'd be like, oh, what's that part of the game? You don't need that. You don't, what's the psych, like, is it just psycho instead of, just like absolutely blowing it out of the water, calling it all sorts of trash. And so I think I just ignored all the skeptics and kept on going. Yeah. There's something players need to know, and they don't have to go through the same stuff that I went through growing up and going through as a pro career. So many ups and so many downs, and then ups and then downs, and self-defeating thoughts and fear of failure, fear of success, all those different things. And I just thought, man, there's so much that if I study this and live it, I wanted to live it too. So as much as I did the training, then I did say 2 hours of training and 2 hours of work with my mind. That could come in all sorts of separate ways. Then I had the ability to change my game completely. Unfortunately, it was at the end of my career that I was doing that though. Right. So that's why I'm obsessed with telling young players so they can have an even more enjoyable career. And that's it.
Yeah, that's really great. Like, really inspiring to hear, and really great tips. Like that, if you have 2 hours of training physically, then you should put in 2 hours of training mentally. That's a great advice for all of the listeners, all the young people, especially out there. You mentioned about the recovering from injury and how you can come back stronger, and you have that doubt. I was injured summer 2019, so last year. I had a partially torn PCL and meniscus, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss my senior season. But I came in with an open mind. I said no to a surgery that they wanted me to do in the US. So I went home to Denmark and just was conservative and worked hard, and really thought that I would recover faster than what they expected. They expected me to be like 3-4 months at least, but I was ready in 2.5 months. I was back and started every game of the season and had almost like a perfect season. It was great. And I just ignored pain basically, because I could still feel my meniscus, but I just ignored it, worked hard, and just that really developed my mental skills as well, being injured. So it's not that you have to be injured to develop your mental skills, but just to learn about. That was really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a massive part of the big thing about what you've said there, to me, shows that you have good self-awareness. That does come usually with age. So that's a good thing too. You may have not been as self-aware when you were 17 or 18.
Doubt it.
And talking about the goalkeeper's perspective with being ready for 90 minutes, me and Alexander and I can confirm that sometimes it can be tough if you're up 2 or 3-0 and there is 15 minutes left of the game. We talked about it in an earlier episode as well, that you think about how you're going to celebrate the win with the boys or the girls after a game. What do you think about, because sometimes it can be tough for 90 minutes to stay focused, to prevent these mistakes that might happen. Any advice on that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. Really train yourself to stay focused and onto it for the complete 90 or plus minutes. They're thinking of anything but outside of those 90 minutes is not going to be in your best interest going forward at an elite level or anywhere near an elite or a professional level. I've worked with a couple of goalkeepers from the Major League Soccer in the US, and they have such a stealth focus that nothing at all is going to get in their mind until the whistle has completely blown, and like completely blown, not a second before. That can be really hard, but that's part of your job out there. And you know, I can definitely say I've been there, and I was probably around your age, especially, and in your position, as in like at college, freshman year, so much fun, and the parties were great. Like, I know I was the host of most of them, and so you know, so I to be honest, I was there. I was thinking, well, okay, cool. So we're nil. I was a central defense, and so, you know, we just gave it to our forwards, and they were playing around with it in the corners. And I'm just thinking, okay, cool. So how many kegs do I need to get? You know, like organizing already. And the thing is that, like, yeah, that is to be honest, that's a very young mentality. And I also think that everyone should go through their own journey. I went through that, and also it backfired too sometimes, because I may have been thinking that a bit too early, and the opposition had scored at different points throughout all the years of playing, when my mind was just a little bit off of it. And whether I had control of it or not, the opposition scored, and we weren't in a good position anymore to win the game. And it's just something you want to always, what you do have control of is you and your thoughts. No, no one else can do that for you. So to train yourself to stay focused is something that also I do believe in a little bit of the overtraining way, in terms of, if you're thinking about a 90-minute session for training and being focused, if you can be focused, you know, and not thinking, be focused, but letting yourself relax in between the times when you can as a goalkeeper. The ball's on the other end of the field, you know, so you can relax your nervous system, clear your head and breathe and get back to normal, and then get ready for the ball coming through. But if you have the ability to, if you've got a 2-hour training session, even staying focused in getting ready to go out to train, then keeping your focus on your main goal of a purposeful, good session throughout the entire session, and your recovery, warm down, and nutrition afterwards. And so if you can try and keep and then you can switch off, and then you can go do something else. You can switch off and, you know, party or whatever you need to do. But for that 90 minutes, like, I can tell you the goalkeepers who I work with, who are professional, there's no going off in a different mindset during those 90 minutes.
That's inspiring. And even talking about mistakes as well, we know that mistakes from goalkeepers can be, they are more important than a striker missing a chance. For example, if you make a bad decision that allows a goal, it can cost the whole game, stuff like that. So the mental aspect of being a goalkeeper, I would say, is one of the toughest on the soccer field.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, the goalkeeper is the position where you probably need the absolute utmost true confidence. And it's got to be something that's worked on. And that's why that's why I was interested to talk to you guys in the first place, because I actually haven't heard many goalkeepers really know or think that the mental side of the game is so massive. And there isn't even a huge amount of, when I, studying and doing my research as well, and then going through all the years, there wasn't even that much information about it. And it baffles me, because the concentration needed, the bounce back from goals scored against needed, that's heartbreaking. When you love football as much as obviously we do, and when you've played games and you're in elite and professional circumstances, it is heartbreaking. And sometimes, and these things, you're talking about goals scored against, and it's so hard to come back on that Monday, because goals are winning and losing. It's really, really tough. So to have a really strong mindset and to continuously hold yourself at a really high level of quality mentality is going to be so important for an elite goalkeeper. And also a massive thing is, you know, like the strength of all the goalkeepers that I've known, and especially my own goalkeepers throughout the years, has been a massive amount of communication. And so from a goalkeeper who communicates a lot, and like a lot, it seems to produce a confidence that might not be there already. You do have to be a certain type of person to be a goalkeeper. So hopefully you have that little bit of that little, not crazy or anything, but a little bit of a different, different. Yeah, I know, because you all know. But yeah, to have, you've got to have something extra, and you've got to find, as a goalkeeper, you've got to find your extra and then work on it. But I'd found that throughout all the goalkeepers, I've seen that to enhance their confidence all the time has been continuous communication, whether they're saying the exact right things or not. But it's that really can build up the confidence.
Yeah, definitely, because we have to stay on top of our game, and that's why it's mentally tough to make mistakes as well, because it's tough not to think about what you could have done right, but you can obviously analyze it afterwards, stuff like that. But if you make a mistake, let's say in the first 10 minutes, there is still 80 minutes left of the game. So the normal advice would be just to not think about it, but we can all agree on that it's tough not to think about. So is there any advice on that aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. It is I'm so sad this really hasn't been put out there before, but you just really need to train your brain to be okay in every single circumstance. And whether that means visualizing, or whether it means actually putting that out on the field when you're training, or doing extra training, or meeting up with your mates and doing some extra training, that every single scenario that could ever happen on the field, whether it was good or bad, is still like it happened. Everything happens in the game, and it doesn't make or break you. No one situation will ever make or break you. So say you've been caught off your line, and the opposition have scored, and it's only 5 minutes in, and it's a team that you thought you were going to crush, and you know that it could have actually been a bit more of your technical mistake. You do have to, the top goalkeepers in the world will literally shove it out of their brain and just tell themselves to get on with the next part, and to improve, and to just knock themselves out of that little mistake. The biggest thing is also with goalkeepers, because I work with a lot with players who, in terms of mistakes, that dwelling on the mistakes and everything is quite tough, but for a goalkeeper it can be a detrimental mistake leading to a goal. So really acknowledging and accepting and loving some mistakes as well, and knowing you're going to make mistakes, and the best goalkeepers in the world still make mistakes, and players, Ronaldo, Messi, they all make mistakes in a game. Most of the time we're only seeing highlights, so we've got to remember that that they have a higher percentage of non-mistake making, but at the end of the day they're still making mistakes, and all the rest of us, kind of more humans, we're making a lot of mistakes, and it's about whether we're dwelling on them or not. So if you have the ability to cut it right out and to clear your head and encourage yourself kindly, not too aggressively. You can rile yourself up if that floats your boat, but apart from that, the number one thing is going through your whole career is encouraging yourself kindly, is working hard, but just, you have to clear the brain straight away. I could have made a mistake, like as a centre back, I made a mistake leading to a goal many times. And especially and that it killed me until I was probably 26, 27, until I was getting into the mindset area. And then after a while, and I was playing, in Australia or in South Korea, if a mistake happened, I was like, okay, that mistake happened, let's go. I'm going to get onto it now. Come on, I'm going to make sure that I'm, in a better, I'm just going to position myself better next time. I'm going to be ready on the back foot that time. I'm going to distribute a bit better next time, and get over it quickly, because always remembering that even though you're an athlete and it's a nice area, you've got fans, everyone loves you, the party's good afterwards, you are completely human. And if anyone's judging you on how you are playing while you're enjoying your career and your journey as a human being, then they can piss off. Because they don't need to, because you've got your journey as a player. And if you want to be the next national team goalkeeper, that's great. But it's your journey, not anyone else to talk about it. You're going to have that conversation with your coach a couple of times, but your coach will also allow you to make mistakes, because you're on a journey going through football. So if you are a little bit kinder to yourself, you'll actually find that you're less tense, meaning that you might actually make less mistakes.
That's awesome. Really great advice. Like, fascinating, all of this, especially the soccer psychology, the mental training. Like I said, that I've used it. I started about 2 years ago. I've always been pretty good mentally, I think so, but I started like studying it more 2 years ago, and it has really helped me like develop my game, make less mistakes. And some things I do to stay focused for 90 minutes is like, I talk to myself, like I say, like, talk confidently to yourself at all times. So like, be calm, and what you just mentioned, like, be confident and so on. And then it's like, dominate every situation. So whether it's a 1v1 or I have to go out in the box or sweep a keeper or something like that, it's just, it has to be there. And then like, stay focused and focus on what you can control and not what you can't control, especially those things. Because I've always been a guy who's like, sometimes I've yelled back at the fans or yelled a lot at the ref, but I've slowed it down a little bit, not a lot, but I still yell at the ref. But it's just to communicate with my defense and every player, just to keep myself focused, because if I don't do that, I just feel like I lose focus. So that's really interesting.
Absolutely. Oh man. And other teams will use that too. I mean, what's one of the best ways that, say if I went up for a header against the opposition goalkeeper, I could roll them up easy by talking crap or by pushing them out the way, and then they're yelling at the ref, and I'm going, I've done my job, I've annoyed them. So what it does show though, when you do get a little bit older and you start to take your mindset more seriously, you realize that the referee has actually got nothing to do with anything, and you should always just be super thankful that you have one, because without it you wouldn't have the game and you wouldn't be playing the game you love. So I've always been very pro just playing. Of course, when I was young, I used to talk back to the refs all the time. But then when I did start to work on the mindset training, I realized that I actually just need to control myself, and I need to just be the best teammate I can be for my teammates and what I can contribute to the team as part of the unit, instead of wondering about the referee's decision. So for the last couple of years of playing pro, it was very much like the ref would make a decision, and whether I agreed with it or not, it was how quickly can we get onto the next spot? Like, okay, cool, referee made a bad decision. How do we combat that? Where do we shift for a wall? Where do we need to shift in position to try and make sure that this isn't a goal scoring opportunity? So, it does show a bit of maturity. So
that, again, that's awesome, man. I really hope that the listeners are taking notes, because I surely am. But as I mentioned, like, soccer psychology, it helped me a lot. And why do you think it can help many, if not all, the players out there?
Yeah, because players all around the world, I consult, not deal with, but I consult players from 8 years old all the way through to like 30 or 35. And it's the exact same for all of the ages. And it can be surrounding any single little part of the game that they're unsure of. And it's like, if you want to learn how to, kick the ball properly, you can go and ask a coach how to kick the ball properly. But if you're unsure about how you feel in your game when you're not doing well, and you've done all the right things to play well, you've eaten well, you've slept well, but things just aren't going your way, and you wonder about that, who are you asking? There's so many questions surrounding the mental side of the game that it's not easily accessible to ask, nor is it sometimes socially acceptable. And this is what is absolutely ridiculous, because it's seen as a fluffy kind of thing. But, you know, it's just so important that I think all players, regardless of what background, level, age, if they do have any concerns or just want to gain more mental strength, then that they have someone to be able to talk to, or they have the resources out there, you know, so to have courses online, and to be able to, and especially maybe talk with someone who has a bit of experience as well. Because I can say, for example, I've had sports psychologists when I was in the national team, and to be honest, they were horrible. And that was mainly because it was very clinical. It was clinical psychology. It was A equals B equals C, and that means you're this. And then this is how we help you according to this. You know, it wasn't actually person-centered. And I find that I get a lot of epic feedback always, and great results from players when you actually treat the player in their own individual way, and you create something that really the players can take a lot from it, and it's from someone who's been through it. And I can, you know, and as I tell them all the time, I was talking to a 10-year-old boy the other day, and he was really reluctant to open up, and I just said, I have been through everything, man. And I have been the downs of the downs, losing everything, like just not being sure, not liking myself, you know, whatever, playing really badly. And then I've won games and been to World Cups and stuff. And he's like, oh, okay, well, he said to me, actually, I don't think I'm as good as I thought I was. And that's my problem. And you just think there's so many different things going on in players' minds, and that they don't feel comfortable to express. So I think it's incredibly important.
As you said, like this with trial land, because obviously me and Marcus have tried different trials. I was just at some right after my season, like we ended the season in December, and then the week after, with basically no recovery, I had to go up to San Jose and Reno to go up there and try out for them. And it was just like, I came up with the feeling that I did what I could. Like, there wasn't any regrets or anything. So like, that was really satisfying. Hannah, thank you so much for being in this podcast.
If you want to see more videos, click here. And if you want to see my latest video, hit that subscribe button.